One of the things I love about decorating for each season is adding fresh flowers to the design. And today I wanted to put some fresh flowers out, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I decorate in mason jars, I design in pitchers, I use all kinds of things to decorate with fresh flowers. And I found this beautiful bouquet at the grocery store because my flower garden is looking pretty tired at the end of the season. And I had this thought that I could design it inside of a pumpkin. So I thought that if I cut the top of this out, the size of a jar, that I could scoop everything out, slide the jar down inside, and design inside of a clear glass jar. It'll look like I designed inside of a pumpkin. So let's try it, see how it goes. This gorgeous little bouquet that I got at the grocery store is full of sunflowers and asters, marigolds, all kinds of coxcomb. There's all kinds of beautiful stuff in here. So I thought this would look really pretty alongside of some grasses I found outside in my yard. I love to mix things that I buy or things that I cut from my cutting garden in with things that you can just cut from your shrubs and from your flower beds. I'm making a line wider than the jar is, the top of the pumpkin, and I'm going to cut outside of that so I have plenty of room to be able to put the jar inside. Here comes the messy part. Well, I've washed and dried out my pumpkin and it is cleaned out inside. I'm saving my seeds so we can toast them later. It's one of my favorite snacks. And now it's time to see. My jar fits right in, it does. This is hidden down inside of here, but it fits perfectly. You want to make sure that you flatten the bottom. Go in and scrape away any pumpkin you have to in the bottom so that your jar sits flat. And now I can go ahead and fill this up with water and start designing. My recipe for keeping flowers fresh is to add a little bit of sugar, a little bit of lemon juice, and a little bit of bleach. Don't get yourself too pressed about the measurements. Just pour some in. I always start out by taking all of my flowers, giving them a fresh cut, and putting them back into some water. I'm just keeping some water in a vase in the sink that I can work from, and make sure that everything is clean before I start working. It will really extend the life of your flowers if you come in and take the time to cut away any leaves that are decayed or any stems that are decaying, to put the freshest pieces into your vase arrangement. Cut these from my yard, so we're adding these in too. They'll give a nice fullness to the whole thing, and they're changing their colors for fall, so I think it'll just be perfect. But again, strip down all those leaves so that you just have stems going in. Never put greenery down inside your vase arrangement. It'll just make it decay faster. All right, I want to talk just a moment about design before I get started, and some of the basic rules to make your arrangements look really pretty. Number one, I always start with some sort of a base in my arrangement. You want something so that when you put your flowers in, they're not falling over. You want to keep them upright. And that's why I ran outside and cut these guys, because I wanted to make sure that I had some base. I'm going to put my stems in and crisscross them inside the vase, and that'll create some structure to help hold our flowers in place. After that, I'm going to start out with things like this that make my line flowers. So what we call a line flower. We want the height, and it'll help to create the shape inside the vase. So you can imagine if I had things like this or things like this, I'm going to be able to create these lines of how I want it to go. Now I don't want it to be all the same height, so I'm going to stagger my heights and make sure that I'm creating some shape to it, but asymmetrical is fine too. But you want to create some shape to it. We don't want to have one thing that's oddly tall when everything else is down here, but I do want something that's taller than the rest. And then you want to make sure that you leave room in between to be able to have things like this, which are our feature flowers. So we're looking for some of that bulky base. We're looking to create some lines with our line flowers and then fill in with our feature flowers. And then we're going to come in and we're going to fill in with things like this, which are going to fill it out in between. Let me show you how. That's Gunner. Say hi. It's starting to rain and Gunner's a little scared, so he's here with us for the rest of the show. All right, I have a pair of scissors and I have a knife, and I use them interchangeably when I design. Generally, I use the scissor when I'm dealing with something that's very woody stemmed, like this. I'm gonna give that a little bit of a cut before I put it in. We're generally looking for things like this to be right down at the bottom, and you can see that this is kind of sitting up and falling over. So I don't need to take much off, but I am gonna cut a little bit off. And again, any leaves that might be touching the water, we want to get rid of them. I'm going to start with these at the base. And then again, something weighty and heavy like this coxcomb is going to go to the bottom as well. If I put it here, it's going to move the weight of this up higher, and it's going to make what I put at the top look shorter. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit. The best way to measure is to stand it next to your vase. If I want it to be here, I need to cut like 3-4 inches off. So I'm going to start with cutting just 2 off and see how it looks. And then I can take some more if I need to. You can always take more, you can't put it back. So I want something like that at the bottom where it's heavier. And now I'm going to go with these line flowers. These are almost at the height that I want them to be, and I'm putting them in here at the top. I'm not worried about exactly where they land at the moment. I'm more concerned with determining their height, and I like this shape. I won't have them in a V like this. I will move them later once we get more flowers in here. Some of these things will help complete that line. So anything you have that has this long, elongated, wispy, kind of lighter shape and size to it, those are going to be our line flowers. Just making sure I get them in the vase and not in the empty pumpkin. All right, now I've created a nice bit of shape around. I'm going to go ahead and put in my feature flowers. Today it's these sunflowers. I want them to be kind of in the middle like this. So I'm very close to the right height just by standing on the counter, just making a small cut to bring it down a little bit. And that's going to be a little bit too tall. I want it to be in there. Now we never want 2 large flowers like that to be at the same height, or you run the risk of them looking like 2 ears sticking out of your arrangement. So if that one is going to be that height, this one's going to be a little bit shorter. There we go. I'm going to turn it a little bit so you can see the height of this sunflower. And ideally, I'm going to be bringing this into the middle a little bit more, is appropriate for the height of the tall pieces. And I think this is amaranth. Okay, now I have these great little asters, and they're going to fill in nicely. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this down just about 2 inches because I do want it to be about the height of this sunflower. As my stems start to crisscross down inside the vase, it starts to hold them where they're not wobbling around as much, but there's more to do. These are so light and airy and wispy, I would like to have them come out the sides a little bit. Helps balance the color of the orange pumpkin as well by bringing them out. These are already growing this way, so I want to go with it and let them go that direction. There we go. Now, as I've been working, my 2 sunflowers have moved, and this happens all the time, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this lower one out, move them back over to this side. And because I have them at 2 different heights, they don't look like 2 ears sticking out the exact opposite sides of the arrangement. Yeah, I like the height of this being right in the middle. And I'm creating balance. I have orange in multiple different places. I have complementing the orange pumpkin. I have orange going throughout the arrangement above. And I have this one more sunflower, which I think I'm going to put over here. There we go. Now, if you want to cut with a knife, you're going to do something as simple as put the knife right along the edge of the stem, use your thumb as a guide, and we're cutting down into, I can't do it out there, we're cutting down and drawing it away, but never cutting into our actual thumb. It's a very quick way of working, and a lot of times I'll do that and I never put this down. I just keep it in my hand. So I'm spinning it all the time while I'm working to make sure that I have balance in color, shape, and size. So my 3 sunflowers are distributed, my orange marigolds are distributed around. I have these 2 pieces near one another but complementing each other, and then I have this pink distributed throughout. I'm lacking a little pink here on this side, and I have this last piece that I can put right here. All of my flowers are in, and I'm choosing to put my grasses in last because I didn't want them to get damaged. They can drop seeds very easily and they break very easily. So when you have delicate things like that, you want to put them at the end, and I'm going to put them in now. When I cut these grasses, I also cut some of the actual blades of grass. So I have not only these beautiful wispies, but then I have some of these blades, which you can put together in a little bundle and insert them as a bundle like this. This is really going to promote the size of the arrangement as well as the idea that it is very much a fall design. The best thing about cutting from your yard is that while you're designing, if you decide that you need another piece, you can just run outside and grab one real quick. Now I don't want to put them all around the edges, so I'm going to put a few up into the arrangement as well. And I think these grasses just turned a grocery store bouquet into something very elegant that looks like you would buy at a floral shop. I love keeping fresh flowers right here at this entry table inside my front door. I think it's a wonderful greeting to have flowers like this, and I do change it seasonally. When I saw the pumpkin and saw the flowers, I thought of this spot for it. However, it's an elevated table. So as you're designing, you'll sometimes notice that you're looking down, and then now that this is sitting so high and I'm looking forward, I'm seeing a very clear empty space right here. Also, because this is kind of a one-sided arrangement, it's now time to readjust. I'm losing that sunflower in the back, so I'm going to go ahead and take it and pull it around to the front. But it's a little too tall, so I went and grabbed my scissor so I can go ahead and cut this off. And I'm going to take a little over 2 inches off of that, and that'll get it down here to the base of the pumpkin. It's getting full inside of this jar. There we go. And now I have a nice distribution of the sunflowers. I can see them in the reflection of the mirror, and I have distribution of it by being out front as well. And there we have it, a beautiful burst of color inside our front door to greet us when we come in. I love taking a neutral tone like this, a black cabinet and very neutral lamps, neutral fabric covering on here. I change this seasonally, but I keep it neutral so I can add a burst of color, and what could be more colorful than this?